Welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Ray with the Bloomfield Public Library. Thank you for joining us tonight as we talk about grant opportunities. I'm going to pass this over to Meredith.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope that you have come home from your day's journey and had an opportunity to get a little bite to eat. But if you haven't, feel free to eat and take care of yourself while we welcome you to our platform tonight for the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. We are so excited to be with you today. The Hartford Foundation for Public Giving is the oldest and largest community foundation in Connecticut, aided by a substantial endowment of over $1.125 billion that has grown steadily over time. We supported the Greater Hartford region with $52.7 million of grant funding in 2020 for a total of more than $849 million since 1925. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And today we represent the Bloomfield Greater Together Community Fund. We have a host of dynamic community members that have come together to help the Hartford Foundation see fit to distribute these grant funding opportunities to organizations that are sorely purposed to service the Bloomfield residents. We are under the advisement of Kate Petrowski. She is the Community Impact Manager from the Hartford Foundation. So I want to give her an opportunity to introduce herself today.
Thank you, Meredith. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad that you're able to join the Bloomfield Community Fund Advisory Committee to hear about their work and upcoming opportunities. I have worked with the Community Funds Program at the Hartford Foundation since it began in late 2018. And so that was prior to any committees having been formed, prior to any grants having been made through the program. And so it's very wonderful to see all the work that committees are doing to make impact in their local towns. So glad to have you all join us, and I'm looking forward to the presentation and some of the questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. So this team spends hours in real-time practice of diversity, equity, and inclusion by attempting again to grant funds to nonprofit organizations that meet a criteria of diversity, equity, and inclusion as they service the town, the members of the town. I'm the chair of the organization, and I want to spend some time introducing our secretary, who does a tremendous job with streamlining all of this information and also communicating to the public. So Kelly, you want to introduce yourself, and then you can popcorn it to the rest of our committee members. Thank you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Trainer. I've been a resident of Bloomfield for the past 6 years. I've been here on the committee for the past 2-ish years since we started. And I'm super excited to be here. You might see me out in the community. I'm usually running, so you'll see me out there. But yeah, I'm excited that we could all be here together. I'm bummed we can't be in person, but maybe next time. Thank you. Let's see. Molly.
Hello, I'm Molly Reynolds. I'm also on this lovely committee. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve on this committee and to get to know some folks in town I would not have known otherwise. I've lived in Bloomfield for 8 years, having made the big trip from West Hartford, where I lived for 22 years. I currently work at Hands On Hartford, where I'm a program manager, and really looking forward to our conversation this evening. And I'm gonna popcorn it over to Shelby.
I am Shelby Young, and I've been living in Bloomfield for around 45 plus years. And I'm just glad to be part of this committee. It's very diverse, energetic, and I really enjoy this adventure in a sense. So I'm just glad to be here to participate with you guys. And I hope this evening is very enjoyable and educational for everyone. And I'll pop it over to Stephen.
Thanks, Shelby. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Dombrowski. My day job is with the Connecticut Department of Labor. I'm the Director of Employee and Organizational Development, and I've been in Bloomfield since 1995, but very familiar with it since I was born because my dad worked for Command Aerospace, and we were always going to company events in Bloomfield, and always just like the area, like the people, and feel very privileged to be on this committee, and looking forward to some conversation tonight with people who are interested in what we do. Thank you. I can pop it over to Corey.
Hi, everyone. I am a resident of Bloomfield for 16 years, raised our family here, owned a business here in Bloomfield at one point, and am an active community member in my religious organization and other organizations in town. And a lot of your names and faces look familiar, and look forward to helping talk about this great opportunity that we have for these funds. And I think, did we get everyone in the committee?
Bob.
Oh, Bob, sorry, Bob.
No offense. I'm Bob Carter. I've been a resident of Bloomfield 18 years next month, and actually very close in the area. Also in West Hartford for 27 years before that. I have been an attorney for over 40 years in the area. I also started and ran a business in Bloomfield, founded here, and ran it for 12 years. I've been on the committee since the start. And as you can see, and what I love about being on the committee is the diversity of people's experience and their length of time here, from very few years to much longer to perhaps lifetime. And so we have a wonderful combination of various aspects of Bloomfield all in one place. I also serve on some other commissions in town, and those tend to connect also with the people in this group. So it's really a wonderful group. We've done some great things, and we look forward this evening to encouraging you to participate with us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That was great introductions. It gives our guests today an understanding of the landscape of community interest. I failed to give any detailed information about myself. I will be brief. I was born here and left for 10 years and came back. And I will say that I've been here for 21 years, but that would be a faux pas because I'm a little older than that. So I've been in Bloomfield since 1968, left for 10 years and then came back. So you can do the math on that. I am a member of several organizations in town, but just to name a few, I'm the chair of the Community Awareness Task Force, and I'm also on the board of directors for BATV, just to name a few organizations. But again, we all interface, and we've been working together for almost going on 2 years. And I think that we have synced into a community family. So welcome to our family. And Molly and Corey will give you some details about the charge that we were given in our assignment as we help the Hartford Foundation distribute these funds to the town.
Yeah, I think Corey's going to get our PowerPoint up and get the screen sharing going. So here we go. I promise this won't take too long. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the fund, our committee, what the grant application process is. I know that is of great interest to people. And then we'll have some information on people who have received grants in the prior round. So, and as you can see, we are the Bloomfield Greater Together Community Fund, and this is a fund of the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. And it's really cool. We are so lucky, as Meredith said at the beginning, to be living in this region where we have a community foundation like the Hartford Foundation. And they have funded the 29 towns in the region to create Greater Together Community Funds with the idea that the residents themselves could make decisions about giving grants to other organizations in that very same community. I think the idea is that we know our community best. And so each town to start was provided $100,000 from the Hartford Foundation. And $50,000, we were asked to put that in an endowment fund. And that endowment fund can accept contributions, so that fund has the ability to grow. And then we also have a current use fund of $50,000, and that's where we'll be making the grants from. And so the purpose of this fund is to support the community in taking ownership around the needs in their specific towns, encouraging broad and inclusive civic engagement, and really providing an anchor for the Hartford Foundation in each of the 29 towns in their region. And this is really cool. Take a minute and look at this. As part of the process, the Hartford Foundation did a listening tour before these different 29 local committees were created, and they went to each community and talked to people. People showed up and they just wanted to know, what are your concerns? What's going on in your town? Why is your town different? And then they had someone do these wonderful mappings, mind mappings, visual mappings of the conversation. So, and I think this really does say a lot about our town. This is also a picture that you can see. We have a webpage through the Hartford Foundation, and this is posted there if you want to spend time really looking at it. So we have an advisory committee. I think we were selected. There was a process. We applied to be on this committee. And the idea was to get a committee that represented our community. So I know that was really taken into consideration when putting this committee together. And we really want to make sure that we're being inclusive and having a process that really looks at what our community needs are, and making sure that in making the grants we can, because we can't fund everything, that's something that's been a learning experience for us, that it's going to have the greatest impact for our community. And we all introduced ourselves, those of us that were here. There are a few that aren't here, but these are the committee members. You might recognize names. And we really are a cross-section of the town. So this is what I know you're really interested in. So we do have new grant opportunities. We're going to be opening up the applications on March 1st, and they would be accepted until April 19th. And requests can be for any amount between $500 and $10,000. And so any nonprofit organization can definitely apply as a nonprofit. You have a 501c3 status that allows you to receive funds from the Hartford Foundation. Now, there may be people who say, hey, I've got a project and I don't have a 501c3. You are allowed to find a nonprofit that can serve as your fiscal agent, or you can also connect with a department within the town of Bloomfield that is sort of relevant to your project, and they can serve as your fiscal agent. And we had a few of those in the last go round. So the criteria, this is important. We really thought about this when we did this last time. The number of town residents who will be impacted by the project, the sustainability of the project, the likelihood of success. Like, we want to know your plan. You can't just ask for funds. We want to know how you're going to do this. And are you going to demonstrate that you can do this successfully? And then, we will look at the cost. Does it seem like what you're proposing to do makes sense relative to the cost you're suggesting? And do we have another slide? Yeah, so these were the organizations that received funds in our first round of making grants. So it was the Bloomfield Early Learning Center, and I think Sarah's gonna she's gonna talk about the library. I know we've got people from some of the grantees who are gonna speak, but we supported at the Bloomfield Early Learning Center a community garden and a community meeting room. We then also funded the Conservation, Energy, and Environment Committee for tree planting, and a representative from that group's here. We gave $5,000 to a group that is working on restoration in La Salette Park. Some people think of that as the Philly House. And then finally, we gave funds to the McMahon Wintonbury Library to help with some exterior seating and Wi-Fi. So if you have questions, this is after tonight, because you can ask your questions now too. We can be emailed at bloomfieldcommunityfund@gmail.com. And the grant application link is here. I don't know if someone can put that in the chat, and then if someone wants to just copy it from the chat, that might be easier than writing it down. And so, we're really glad we can do this. It's as I said earlier, it's an honor to serve. And I'm sorry, we've got one more slide. So I think I mentioned earlier that people can make donations to this fund. So this sort of lists how that can happen. You can contribute to the projects in the town of Bloomfield. You could by donating directly to this fund at the Hartford Foundation. We have not yet, but we may be having fundraising campaigns, and hopefully support on that would be something you might consider. And we also are going to be encouraging local businesses to support this fund, because it really is a fund for everyone in this community. And as you can see, our expenses are very low. I know when you donate, you always want to know that. And we're all volunteers, and we have very, very, very low administrative expenses. And that is the end of the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I know that everyone is really already brewing with questions, but we want to hold the questions to the end, because we are thinking that maybe the presentation for some presentations from some of the grant recipients that are here might generate some other questions. So we are being diligent by Kelly is tracking all the questions, and we're hoping to be able to answer all of them. So we want to introduce Paula Jones. She's the acting chair of the Conservation, Energy, and Environment Committee. And we want to introduce her to tell us some exciting things about what she did with her grant money.
All right.
Paula, are you still the acting chair or are you the chair now?
I'm still the acting chair, but acting
Okay.
chairs can sometimes be acting for a long time. So
Long
we'll see where-
time.
we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meredith, for the introduction. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening and talk about our project. And I'll just say right up front how grateful we are for the grant funding that we got, because it really allowed us to continue momentum that we needed to establish in our kickoff year around the project. We really couldn't have been as successful without the grant. So thank you. Just a little bit about CEC and the project. We are an advisory committee. We're appointed by the town council, and our name is very descriptive of what we do. We work on projects related to conservation, energy, and the environment. And these days, we really try to view any work we do through the dual lens of climate change mitigation and environmental justice. So that's kind of the way we look at pretty much everything. Planting trees checks all those boxes. It really does. There's been no dedicated funding in our town budget to maintain our tree canopy or to plant trees. And additionally, many trees have died or been removed on both public and private property and not been replaced. So this has led to gaps in Bloomfield's tree canopy. And in particular, it's led to gaps in 5 census blocks that stretch along kind of the Park Avenue, Rockwell corridor, over to Blue Hills Avenue, and then down to the Hartford line. And, you know, it's not surprising because there's lots of pavement, you know, those are more urban areas, and there's just a lot less tree cover. Trees are just a very, you know, wonderful, cost-effective way to mitigate climate change. They absorb carbon, they release oxygen. And in addition to that, they lower the ambient air and soil temperature. So they reduce their energy bills, they reduce heat stress, and they're also very, very effective in terms of stormwater control and, you know, help prevent flooding. So they're, you know, they kind of do it all. So recognizing this gap, we partnered with the Bloomfield Beautification Committee and with town departments, and ultimately with other groups within the town, the library, you know, churches supported this. And we launched this Trees for Bloomfield initiative. And because we're advisory committees appointed by the town council, we needed a fiscal agent. We're not a nonprofit. The town served as our fiscal agent. And we started, you know, we needed, before all of that, we needed to do some fundraising. So we had a full year of activities planned, but we recognized upfront that we really needed to plant trees. That was what the name of the game was all about. So we planned 2 tree plantings, one for Arbor Day and one celebrating the first day of fall. And we were able to secure through donations early last year enough money to ultimately pay for the Arbor Day planting, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But we never could have done the fall planting without this grant. We really needed it to sustain the momentum and kind of get through our year. So, you know, we applied for the grant and got awarded the grant, and were thrilled about it because, you know, where should we plant trees? And what it came down to was we went with 330 Park, the Human Services Facility, and that complex, in part because it's an area that really supports a lot of recreation, a lot of activity. All Bloomfield residents have access to it. if you think about that site and the other site where we planted trees, which was the Rockwell Bill Lee Fields complex, and then some in the town center, but mostly those two areas, along Park Avenue in front of Carmen Arace Middle School. The areas where we planted the trees, a lot of people visit and a lot of people have access. And if you're looking at where the tree equity scores are low and where there's gaps in the canopy, people don't have as much access to, nature. Probably the easiest way to describe it. So the funding provided us the opportunity to plant trees at the 330 Park complex that will provide attractive screening and buffering between the shared driveway between the middle school and the recreational complex. So it will filter pollutants, provide more, privacy in terms of people recreating. The trees are really hardy trees and suitable for the location, and they need to be because town trees need to be tough. They withstand a lot of abuse. DPW has to mow and do things like that. And I will make the comment that the town has been a phenomenal partner, and our town staff has been phenomenal in terms of partnering with us. Leisure Services, the Department of Public Works, in terms of choosing sites, trying to pick areas that a lot of people will benefit from. And, I'll give a shout out to the public library as well, because they have hosted educational webinars. I'll wrap up with the comment that we've relied a huge amount on volunteers. I'm really happy when people I know who have always viewed trees as a nuisance, and they've been concerned about storm damage and things like that, or they're being messy, are now more interested because they realize, you can find the right tree to plant in the right size tree to plant in your yard, and to go on with that. So I'm rambling a bit, but hopefully that gives you a sense of the project. We're very excited to be launching our second full year, and we have a wonderful project planned that we hope to collaborate with a number of people on. So more to come on that.
Meredith, I think you may be on mute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Paula. I was wondering if you were going to give a little sneak preview to the urban forestry project that you're embarking on.
Well, thank you for asking. I will. We are very hopeful that we've applied for a Connecticut Urban Forestry Council climate change grant, and through the town, through the Department of Public Works. That's the town agency that we work with. And what we're looking to do is plant 80 trees in the neighborhoods that run along Park Avenue and down Blue Hills, completely voluntary. We'll be using volunteer planning teams. I want to acknowledge the Bloomfield Beautification Committee, because those are our troops on the grounds when it comes to sort of planning the planting. Sharon Mann is the chair of that committee. And we're very excited. I'll mention Meredith's group, Doll's House Foundation, has written a letter of support for that, as well as others. And the whole point is to partner with various entities to plant trees together and help homeowners in terms of planting trees and maintaining their trees. So we're quite excited, and cross your fingers for us so that we get that grant. And if I can mention one other thing, we have established a Trees for Bloomfield Fund at the Hartford Foundation that we're trying to build up over time to be a source of funds long into the future for planting trees. But that takes time. So again, thank you so much for this grant, because it really did help us have a successful first year.
Thank you so much. We're going to say that the CEEC and that Trees for Bloomfield project that, took, I believe it was April 25th, Arbor Day of last year. It was a really active event that people saw because you saw you had the green shirts on, and you had students from the, there you go. You had students from the high school involved in the elementary. So it was a wonderful event. And many of the trees were planted right outside of the Bloomfield Early Learning Center, which is another recipient of the grant. They're not here right now, but I thought we would give them an honorable mention. And they're also another organization present that does some conservation engagement, the Ironwood Community Partners. And there is one, I believe there's a member of the Ironwood Community Partners that's here on the call if they wanted to raise their hand to be recognized. Do we see them? Do we see a hand up? Okay. So the Ironwood Community Partners was another organization that was a recipient of our grant. And then we have the multifaceted, multi-diverse partner to the community, the Bloomfield Public Library. So Sarah, if you'd like to give us information about your library home.
Thank you, Meredith. My name is Sarah Ray. I'm an adult services librarian for the Bloomfield Public Library. On behalf of the library and our director, Elizabeth Lane, I'd first like to thank the committee for seeing the value of libraries and investing in our future. Our McMahon Wintonbury location on Blue Hills Avenue received the funds for comfortable and inviting seating outdoors. When I'm on desk, I work at McMahon Wintonbury Library and can attest to how busy the technology services are. For a snapshot of exactly how busy, over the last 6 months, we've had over 7,400 computer sessions and 11,000 visits at McMahon Wintonbury. In addition to the seating for reading, meeting tutors, and gathering socially, the main idea behind the grant was to celebrate our new Wi-Fi that the state of Connecticut installed last March. The Wi-Fi extends throughout our green spaces and almost to BELC. There's a big, beautiful green space behind the library on Rockwell Ave that we look forward to using more. As we know, the digital divide is an area we're always trying to address in Bloomfield. The library also circulates hotspots and Chrome kits, all free with your library card. Each Chrome kit contains a Chromebook laptop, mobile Wi-Fi hotspot, mouse, and HDMI cable. As a reminder, library cards are free for everyone and they start at birth. We serve all and hope all of you at this program and watching the recording will swing by for a visit soon. And some things that might entice you is we just set up the Trees for Bloomfield photo exhibition. So if you want to see the winners from that photo contest, come visit. And we also have, it was just announced today, an open house next week showing our 3D models of our building plans. So you can find that information on our event calendar and on our website.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. As people, those of us who have been in Bloomfield for many years may have grown up in Bloomfield. We know the library has been our educator, sometimes our latchkey babysitter. It has hosted our bookstore, our free bookstore, because if you go to Prosser, you'll be able to get the free books. And I don't know if Wintonbury does that, but the library just holds a plethora of multi-services for the community. So we did do a lot of, I must say, sitting at the table, long, arduous hours going through the grant applications and making sure that we were making the right decision, that we didn't have organizations that were doing the same focal task, and what organization had the largest outreach. So it was really, really a labor of love, and we brought courageous conversations in the room as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about regional differences as it relates to the east side, to the west side of Bloomfield. So we brought those courageous conversations in the room, and we learned how to communicate coming from different backgrounds and bringing those experiences in the room. So not only did we're honored to grant these organizations the grants, we were honored to really explore, again, as I mentioned earlier, the courageous conversations about diversity and how we saw the lens of needs in the community. We could not have moved this forward because there was sometimes transparently that we sometimes got stuck because we're all passionate about Bloomfield. And Kate Petrowski kind of helped us get unstuck on some days. So I want to give her an opportunity to talk about her role and the larger parent organization of the Hartford Foundation.
Thanks, Meredith. I'll try to be fairly brief because I know people probably have plenty of questions, but Molly in her presentation with the PowerPoint had mentioned that one of the goals of the program was to broaden inclusive civic engagement in the communities. And so when the Hartford Foundation, were on the listening tours, listening to feedback from residents across 29 quite varied towns that we serve as their community foundation, we realized that sometimes our strategic priorities for the region may not fully address the local needs that occur in the communities we serve. And so we wanted to sort of shift that decision-making power into the hands of residents who, as Meredith, I believe, said earlier, know their communities best. And so a lot of this work is intended to encourage inclusion in both how the Hartford Foundation is sharing their power, if you will, and how money is being utilized in the community, as well as how the committee itself functions together and how they view the grant opportunities that are coming into them, the grant requests, I should say. And so we had to sort of begin somewhere to build out the advisory committee. Again, we didn't want the Hartford Foundation to be the ones deciding who's on the advisory committee, because in some ways that's sort of tugging on the same coattails, if you will. A former team member of mine said, it's not about the same Los Cuatro Gatos. We don't want the same four cats making the decisions all the time, but we did need to begin somewhere. So just some background information. The Hartford Foundation held regional meetings where we basically asked folks to help us determine their advisory committees for their town. So we had formed what we called selection committees, and they put out a broad call in their own communities to identify advisory committees. And so it wasn't a perfect process. Obviously, we invited folks that we already knew as an entity, but we were sort of trying to remove ourselves and put even who gets to sit on the advisory committees in the hands of community members to determine. And so this inclusive work is still a part of the committee's practice. The Hartford Foundation is offering what we're calling inclusion workshop series, and the Bloomfield Committee just attended one, just to talk through ways to work together inclusively and what the decision-making process will look like or could look like moving forward. Some things I also just wanted to mention is that the presentation mentioned initially $100,000 being donated to Bloomfield's community fund, 50,000 being endowed and 50,000 being that current use, that cash. Since then, the Hartford Foundation has recognized the good work of many of the advisory committees in this program and has donated an additional $30,000 into that current use and $20,000 into the endowed portion. So that is growing from the Hartford Foundation kind of shifting their dollars into these funds, but also some community donations have come in. And if you know folks who are interested in donating, there are always the donation links on the website on Bloomfield's webpage, which we had dropped in the chat. So just wanted to make that aware for folks. I think that's all I needed to cover, but Meredith, if I've missed something, please let me know.
No, I think that's great. Thank you for that broad brush. And if there's something that during the Q&A that needs to speak directly to the greater foundation, then you can respond to that. So we are coming to the point in time where we want to answer your questions. So Kelly has taken an accurate account of all of the questions. So please, she will read them and then we will answer them accordingly. If anything comes up, just continue to put those questions in the chat, and or at this point in time, you can kind of raise your hand and we will recognize you. You can unmute and ask the question. So Kelly.
So we only had a couple of questions. The first was the deadline for the next grant cycle, which we'll get into in just a few minutes. And then the second was whether or not you have to be a nonprofit in order to apply for a grant. So I believe, who was taking those questions? Was it you, Molly, or?
Yes, yeah. So the applications are going to open on March 1st. And we'll be accepting them until April 19th. And there is a link that we put in the chat to apply. And I know at the beginning of this meeting, a few of us were talking informally, and we discussed having some hard copies available at the Wintonbury Library, which Sarah has said would be okay. So although we didn't put that in our presentation, we are going to have some hard copies at the library too. Just to make that easier. And the question regarding the, if you have to be a nonprofit organization, no, you don't. You, we of course do accept applications from nonprofits, but you can find a fiscal agent, meaning you can partner with a current nonprofit organization, have them sort of apply on your behalf, or you can find a partner in the town of Bloomfield. Like say you wanted to build a playground. You could maybe go talk to someone at the Parks and Recreation Department and explain your project and see if they would be willing to serve as your fiscal agent.
And I'll share some just background knowledge. The reason why a nonprofit is required as a fiscal agent is just by nature of how the community foundations are set up. We are legally bound to only give dollars to nonprofit organizations for charitable purposes. So they cannot go to for-profit businesses or to individuals. And the degree to say, if you're not a nonprofit, the degree of your relationship to your fiscal agent sort of depends on that particular relationship. They might just be purely the recipient of the dollars. But they are financially responsible to account for those dollars. Or they could, like as Molly suggested, be a bit more of a programmatic partner. It really depends on your needs of your program.
Thank you, Kate. And I will I will also add with that, if you're seeking out a fiscal agent, from my experience from working with the town last year, some of the fiscal agents are going to expect you to follow through with the reporting responsibilities that is required to the Hartford Foundation. So just know that. And if you fill out the application, you will see on the Hartford Foundation site that there are grant reporting responsibilities that occur. So your fiscal agent most likely is going to require you to complete that fiscal that oversight. But again, each fiscal agent will have their own criteria, but just to keep that in mind. Are there any other questions? If you want to just have a show of
Yeah, I
show of
see one
hands.
in the chat, Meredith. Someone has just asked, what if you are a newer nonprofit organization? Do you qualify to apply? Well, I guess the first thing would be, does this newer nonprofit organization have a 501c3 status? If you do, then you can apply. If you don't, just as with anybody else, you could find a fiscal partner. Either a department within the town of Bloomfield, or an existing nonprofit organization that does have that 501c3 designation. Barb has her hand up.
Hi, you can't see me. I'm undercover. But so I have two questions. I didn't turn on at the beginning because I forgot all about it. So you may have covered this. Apologies right now. What is the limit that one can apply for? Is there one? And is there a scope of service that I missed? Sorry.
Oh, yes. So the grants are between $500 and $10,000.
Okay.
And yes, we did we kind of went through like criteria. I'm just going to look up my little slide page here. You know, we want to make sure that your project is benefiting, you know, a good proportion of the town residents. You know, if you had a project that was going to help 2 people, it might not, as we were considering grants, that might not get a lot of support. The sustainability of the project, is this something that looks like it can continue without the funding of the Greater Together Community Fund? And what's your likelihood of success? So in the application, you know, we want to hear what your plan is and how you think it's going to work and why it's going to be successful. And we also want to make sure that the cost, the request you're making is reasonable relative to what you're going to be doing.
Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions out there? We welcome all questions. No other questions out there. Well, let me ask you a question, and anybody is willing to answer this. Since we have a very diverse population on the phone, I'm going to take advantage of this population, because we all sit in our meetings to say, what does Bloomfield need? Where do we think we can support the needs of Bloomfield? I'm just going to take a moment. If anybody has any thoughts related to that, we'd be happy to hear that, because it will help us track where we need to grant our funding to. We have a shy audience with us tonight. Oh, Barb.
Meredith, this is Bob Ferger. I wonder if we could pose another question to the group here. There's a fairly large number of people, and wonder if, without any commitments or even further than the spur of the moment, if we could ask how many people who are attending this evening might be interested with their own involvement or a group in applying this next round. We do have a round that we're about to solicit right away, and it would be interesting for the people who are attending this evening, why you attended. Are you interested in applying? Could people give any sort of indication of that, even if they don't identify themselves, maybe chat voting or something?
Great question, Bob. Thank you.
Oh, this is Callie. Hi, everybody. I came just to learn more about it. It sounded like something that, having been a resident in town for 20+ years, anything that says that it was for the community, I wanted to learn a little bit more about what possibly this would be about. I am in just a Facebook group for Bloomfield, and most recently there was a lot of chatter about a dog park, you know, that people don't have a place to walk their dogs other than in the schoolyards or in, you know, playgrounds that kids play in, and then that has consequences that families and parents don't like to deal with. So I was, no group, not representing anyone. Just really wanted to understand if there was a group of people who would be interested in applying, how to go about that. And that's why I'm here.
Outstanding. Thank you. Wow. That is, wow. What? Bloomfield doesn't have a dog park. That is so, wow. I'm told that Ayana was about to ask a question or had some activity, so we want to make sure that we give space for her. Thank you, Ms. Gardner. Ayana, what did we read you right? Did you have a
Yes.
question? Thank
Yes.
you.
Good evening, everyone. I am a Bloomfield resident. I was interested in, actually, I saw it in a Bloomfield Facebook group as well, just 2 days ago. So I'm glad that I saw it in time. I am very interested in applying. Clearly, I will need a fiscal agent. I would love to see healthier meals in our public schools. So that's why I attended this evening. So I think that answers both questions.
Thank you so much. As you think about additional questions, please email. Our email address has been placed in the chat. Please feel free to email us any other comments, questions, so that we can use this information, and we can also develop a intimate email list for distribution lists that will include you, so that you'll be the first, you'll be the VIPs to receive the grant application when it goes live. So please take time to email
Hey, Meredith.
us.
Meredith,
Yes.
yep.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a few hands up with questions.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
So I see Elsa.
Yeah, yes.
I apologize. We had one in the chat that came in first from Cheryl Rice asking if the grant was open to churches or religious organizations for community projects, not church-related projects.
So the answer would be, churches are nonprofits. So we had churches apply in the past. They were one of the churches, and let it remain confidential, was a forerunner of us wanting to give a grant to, and they were honored to get a grant from the parent organization. So to answer the question, we absolutely, we're open to everyone. Our only criterion is the population that you're servicing. We're going to want to make sure that your service need maximizes serving the Bloomfield residents. So that is what we look at for criteria. But yes, you're welcome. Kelly, you want to tell us our next question, whether it's chat or hand up? Or Molly, either one.
Yes, Elsa would be next.
Hi, I'm representing Operation Fuel. We're a statewide organization, but we've received these types of dollars from other funds, and we restrict the dollars solely to the residents. This would be for Bloomfield residents only that we would be applying for. And when we have allocations for towns, but once we run out of money, people are turned away. And we help people with their utility bills and that sort of thing. So we're hoping for consideration from the committee for helping Bloomfield residents pay their utility bills. We used to have our offices right in Bloomfield for many years. And currently both our executive director, Brenda Watson, and our deputy director, Darlene Ewell, are Bloomfield residents as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So as Bob gleaned, it's good to know how many people are potentially looking to apply, because as you know, we do have a limited amount of funding that we can give. So when we have all of the applications, the application process is a scaling process. So we're looking at all of the applications, the amount that we have to distribute, and the criteria for all of the organizations. So that kind of determines who gets what. And so it's a lot of factors, as you might know, but thank you for that question.
Meredith, if I may just,
Please,
going to
certainly.
take the next question. Just to encourage people, I would, without disclosing the numbers, we did have obviously more applications than we made grants in the last round, but it wasn't a whole lot more. So the purpose of this evening really is to encourage people to apply. Don't be shy if you feel that you do have a project. We don't mind getting more applicants than we can accommodate. And in fact, in the first round, there were some groups that did not get awards, but we let them know it would be worthwhile for them to apply again. So I just want to encourage people. All of the ones mentioned this evening would be certainly well received, to think broadly and do apply. That's all I was going to add.
I believe we had one other question, Karen Lewis.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Couple of things, a couple of questions, I guess. If you have a not-for-profit, but it's not registered in for Bloomfield, it has not a Bloomfield address, does that disqualify you?
Not if it's serving Bloomfield residents.
Not if it's serving Bloomfield residents. Okay, and the other question is that I noticed in the slide that showed who got funding, who got funded last time, it was maybe 4 grants, and it was like 5,000 and 10,000, and you only had, you know, a little bit of money as it was. So the question gets to be is that is it really you had that range from 500 to 10,000, and do you give away, have you done in the past smaller grants in terms of $500 or $1,000?
So we've only had one round of grant making.
And so that was that last one.
That's it. That is what we've given so far. And I can tell you that some of the requests were more than we gave.
Okay, was more than you gave. So the other point then from that is, if in fact did you have 50,000 last time, or just you gave away all of your money last time?
No, we decided we wanted to, and that was before we knew there was going to be another injection from the Hartford Foundation. We didn't want to give it all away because we wanted to be able to have a few rounds of grant making.
Okay.
So we wanted to have this moment right here. We didn't want to use all of we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to make sure the public, the canvas of Bloomfield was well aware about this event. So this opportunity. So we collectively decided that we're going to give multiple rounds to ensure that everyone knew, as Bob and Molly suggested, that the general population knew what the opportunities were here, and because we didn't want to be disparate. We know sometimes those people are in a know that there's an opportunity out there, and then they're able to apply. But we wanted to make sure, as a diverse community, that we inform the general population. We want to get the word out. We want to get the word to those organizations that may not be in the quote unquote no, but are still doing the work and servicing the community.
Meredith, if I may add, just for Ms. Lewis and for everyone, we had in our past round larger organizations that applied, but we determined that their impact would be relatively small on the town. So Ms. Lewis, if someone applied for $500 or $1,000, but it had an impact on many people, we would certainly consider that. It's not the size, but as Meredith Johnson and others have said, the impact on the town that we're interested in.
Thank you.
We have a couple other hands up. We've got Tanisha.
Hi, I'm Tanisha Elabade. I just, not really a question, but just wanted to say why I decided to attend. I have been living in Bloomfield for almost 10 years. I just started a new nonprofit working with families in the social emotional learning area. So I'm really looking to just bring something interactive with just family engagement for the Bloomfield community. So I got a email or a flyer this morning for this meeting tonight, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Tanisha. Paula, you're up next.
Yes, I just wanted to offer a comment as a recipient in the first round. We used a fiscal agent, and we also got a partial grant, which was great because you know, we really appreciated the fact that the committee came back and asked us, you know, can you do the work you need to do with less than the full amount that you requested? And the answer was, yes, we can. Thank you very much. And I just wanted to offer I wanted to reiterate that. It's good to ask if you're looking to do something. And, you know, I would just suggest it doesn't hurt to say, I'd like this much money, you know, we'd like this much money, but if you can give us a partial grant and not the full amount, you know, that helps you get the job done. So just wanted to reiterate that.
Thanks, Paula. I don't see any other hands at this time. If anyone else has any other questions, please throw those hands up in the air. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Meredith.
So Kelly, if you just want to give us those, we've said it many times, but if you just want to give us those final go live and deadlines.
Yep. So again, our applications will open on March 1st, and they'll be due on April 19th, and it will be by 11:59 p.m.
Thank you so much. Committee members, is there any, I'm sorry, grant recipients, is there anything else you want to add to this process? Okay, Paula. Absolutely.
I would just encourage people to put in an application. The form is not onerous. The committee is very good and helpful in terms of feedback. The grant reporting is manageable, you know, if you get a grant, and you know, just do it. I really encourage you to go ahead and put in an application.
Oh, I got a question, quick, if I may. Once you put it in, the application process is closed on April 19th. How long a process before actual selection?
I would say our process is approximately 6 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Around in there somewhere, so okay. Thank you.
Committee members, are there any other comments that anyone want to make tonight?
Meredith, I'll just make one follow-on comment from Paula Jones, and that is that if you apply for a grant and we can't give you all of the funding, we had a discussion at the committee level, the fact that you've gotten a smaller grant, but it partially helps you, you then have the opportunity to go out to other grant-making organizations and say, look, we got a grant from the group of the Hartford Foundation. Will you match it or add to it? So the fact that you might apply for $10,000 and get 2 still gives you an opportunity to say, hey, we were selected. Would other people like to add? So that's an important point.
Thank you, Bob. Committee members, are there any other comments? So we just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come to this informational event to this evening. We are representing you, the community. We're representing you to help those organizations to help us. So we take all of your questions, all of your commentaries, because again, we are a representative of you. So please, please, please email your information to our email address so that we can get to know you, and we can also have your information so that we can, as Bob and other members have said, send applications to you as we go live. We try to have our information on many of the public sites. So if you don't know, some of the more global sites that we use in Bloomfield will be the Bloomfield Public Library, the Messenger, and Leisure Services has a website, and they do email blasts. And there are people who are putting their information in the website. Thank you, in the chat. Thank you so much. So again, thank you for taking time out to learn more about Greater Together. And we hope that we will see you in an application form, and we hope to see you via email. Again, we are for the community. We are trying to support the community. We are Bloomfield Greater Together. So thank you and have a pleasant evening. Committee members.